Hey y'all, welcome back to the ranch. I'm Jared Paul, and today we're going to take a look at one of my favorite tree specimens, the African baobab trees. Now, if you've watched my playlist in the past, I believe personally that this is the absolute most difficult tree to germinate from seed. That's what I did. I have a planting of 3, and my specimen over here, I believe they're going into dormancy, so we're going to take a closer look at what we've got and see if we can't prune from some nice new branching coming this early spring and summer. So that's what's coming up on today's episode of Jarhead Bonsai. All right, so let's first take a look at my specimen here. So maybe I'll move it a little closer. So my initial goal was to grow what they would typically look like in the wild, which is a nice wide base, and then almost gets to the point where the base is, huge and thick straight up, and then they have all these tiny little leaves going across the top. If you're not into trees, you would probably say, that's ugly, or just like not even notice them. But for some reason, they're just, I don't know if it's because it's from a foreign land I've never been to or what, but just they're really intriguing to me. So a few years back, I think we're going on year number 3 now. Yeah, actually, this is the start of year number 3. I decided that I wanted to germinate some of these. So initially, I got 25 seeds, and they they didn't do so well. I believe that's where I got 1 out of the 25 to germinate, and then I did 100 seeds, and I got 3 more to germinate. Not too long after. So if you haven't seen the baobab seed, it looks like a little black bean, and it has a really hard shell. Obviously, there's a reason for this in nature to protect it from something, or maybe it has a really long dormancy period before it's going to germinate. But please go back on our playlist. I believe it's listed as African baobab, the most difficult tree to grow from seed, so there's a playlist on it, and I'll show you what I did, talk about it in depth. And really, there's a lot of steps, so I would encourage you to do so. But if you don't feel like doing that, you just want to enjoy this video, cool. So this little guy over here, it's going into dormancy now, but I believe it got attacked by spider mites this year, and that's probably why it kicked off its leaves a little earlier. I think that it's doing all right now, but I couldn't see any of the webbing and all your typical spider mite, notifications, or when you're like, oh my gosh, if you've had spider mites before, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, spider mites make like this tiny fine web in the crotches of your trees, and they could really kill a tree very quickly. They're very hard to see and hard to detect, and on this I found it to be the most difficult because they weren't even making any webbing. I literally just saw them on the leaves themselves, and what gave it away is when spider mites attack, they turn leaves into like a speckle. So they'll get like a little yellow hue or brown hue and a speckling of white or very light yellow on your leaves, and that's how you know, all right, I have to treat for spider mites like now, because if you wait an extra day, you could totally lose your tree. So I'm really hoping and hopeful that I saved this guy. So what I did is I mixed in a little spray bottle. I put in warm water and a tiny squirt of all natural dish soap, and then a little bit of rosemary oil. And that seemed to do the trick. And I hosed that down every few days for about a week and a half, and about 5 minutes after the treatment, I would spray it back down with just straight water to wash off the additional oils and soap. And so that usually that solution usually takes care of any of the insect predators you find, mealy bugs, scale insect. I'm sorry if you hear like a grinding in the background, but Bruce Lee, my dog, he decided right now would be a good time to chew on this huge cow leg bone that we got him for Christmas. So anyways, so I wanted to initially style this thing to be straight up, but as you grow things in a windowsill, obviously they're going to grow towards the light. So the baobab was pretty much the same thing. It grew towards the light. So It's starting to get a nice thick trunk, but it's swaying out to a side. So if we do prune this today, I'm going to prune it to maintain these two branches, but I'll probably bring this one in a lot more, even though I don't necessarily want to, because, you know, we're going on 3 years and it only has, it split once and then it split twice. It doesn't have that many branches. So I might not prune this one today. Actually, I'm not going to. I just decided it's just too difficult to grow these from seed to risk it. And even though it's going into dormancy like these are going into dormancy naturally. This one went through a trauma and was treated and didn't kick off any new growth since then. It hasn't shown any new signs of spider mites, but with just one leaf remaining, I'm not going to chance it. So, yeah, I made up my mind. I'm going to baby it. I'll wait till spring, summer, and then I'll decide then. It is well rooted, though, in this pot. I have to say, I imagine that the roots are looking pretty swell. So it'll be a repotting and a pruning coming on that baobab. So let's take a look at my planting of 3. I really like to do things in 3. It just works for my eye and for my brain. Love the number 3, even more so the number 33. And I'm a Libra, so, you know, I believe that's just like the ultimate balance number. I have a little meerkat and its babies in here, and we got this at the Zoo and Botanical Garden in Dresden, Germany. That place was absolutely epic. The best part of Dresden, Germany, in my opinion. Otherwise, the people, the hotel, everything, they weren't exactly friendly or inviting, and yeah. So I'm just going to clean up here. Hey, I didn't mean to offend anybody if you're watching from Dresden, Germany. We went to Dresden, Germany because my family, the Krzyzewski last name, there's a Krzyzewski museum there. And that stems back to Joseph Ignacy Krzyzewski. He's a famous Polish author who he was a nobleman who was really for the people, and he wrote many novels that didn't have to do with the government necessarily, but he also was all about the rights of the peasants and the treatment of the poor. And the government didn't like that, so they banned him from Poland and imprisoned him a couple of different times. But Dresden, Germany is where he resided for a good part of his life. So I really thought while we were in Europe for Franny's ballet tour to Florence, Italy, that it would be epic to do a little road trip up to Dresden, Germany, which we did, and then we shot across to Paris, France. Was definitely not enough time in Europe. I would just die to go back, especially right now. I'm so jonesing for a trip. And then we flew out of Paris back to the United States. So really best trip of my life, but it just left us wanting so much more. So, short story long, that's where this guy came from. I think it's fitting in this planting. I have some also some nice desert style rocks, or what I would think you would find these colors and shades and clump styles in Africa, from what I've seen on pictures and movies and things like that. That is one place. I don't know if it's on my hit list to visit. Maybe South Africa, go see my broski Sean down there, but I don't know about going out into like on a safari or anything with Laura or Franny or our future baby. It just seems a little dangerous. All right. So I think I'm just going to see. No. All right. So the ones that I know are going to fall off, I'm just going to get them out of our way right now. And they turn yellow, and then typically they'll fall off on their own, and you just like literally do this and they fall off. So this is the front of our planting. This would be the medium one, so smallest, medium, largest. And I think that's how you're supposed to do scale on like a forest or group planting. You start with the front, and then the taller ones are in the back, so it kind of gives the appearance of a forest, and this one's in the distance. There's a lot of growth here vertically since it divided. There's really not much kicking off. There is a leaf coming out down here, so I think this first guy, I'm going to get down to there. You know what? I have some money tree cuttings from earlier that I'm probably going to root as cuttings, so I might as well give it a shot with these baobabs. I have no clue if they actually root from a cutting, but they seem to be, they're green and semi-soft wood, so might be able to get away with it, or semi-hardwood. Bruce Lee, keep it down, bro. That's a lot of loud chewing. All right, there's an outward facing bud here. I'll prune to there. So that, you know, kind of looks like a Y right now, but we have a little branch down here coming out this way. This one comes up, and this one comes up. If we could get it to divide, that would be pretty cool. And that's about where I would want the apex. So with this one, I'll just, there's one new leaf coming in, and then two larger ones, so I'll just prune off the larger ones. On your cuttings, you want your energy to go to the development of roots. You don't want it to just go into the leaves. So you want a little bit for it to be able to absorb and create energy for the tree from the sun, but you don't want a whole bunch of foliage. All right, going around. This would be the mini guy. So this one is a total survivor. It was just like a little nub for a while. I used it to prop up a baby crepe myrtle seedling, and then out of nowhere, it was in dormancy for forever. It just started kicking off growth, and I was so excited. And last year, I don't know if it was about this time or not. I'd have to go back on the playlist to see when I did this planting. Last year, I was able to incorporate it with 2 other survivors. I probably had 8 that germinated overall, and I'm left with 4 of the 8. So if you haven't germinated baobabs from seed, don't get discouraged if you have low numbers. It's just very difficult. You have to sand down the hard shell, and then you have to soak it, and then you have to peel apart the shell, and then put it in a refrigerator, and like a little Tupperware and paper. All right, y'all, so this was the noise you might have heard in the background. This is my 11-year-old mutt, Bruce Lee. He's the best. Huh, buddy? And this was his Christmas present, a nice big cow leg. So he's been working on that for a few days. If you really want to lose an arm, go ahead and try to take that from him. So I apologize. Not my intention, but my phone did not clear out when I deleted the other footage. And so while I was videoing this, it totally died on me. So you missed the last little bit. Or maybe you're sick of hearing me talk anyway, so you don't mind. But here we are. Little meerkats in the back. I took them down into an outward facing leaf. I'll probably bring down the height a little bit more in the future, but for now, I didn't want to bring them down too far. I wanted to have a little new growth already started. I didn't want to just do a Hail Mary cut on such a difficult tree to grow. So this will stay as the front. And yeah, it just looks like a few sticks in the mud right now, but I know how much time and effort has gone into them. So I love these. I love to continue to see them develop, and we'll see where they go. And then my little specimen over here. Boom, boom. So a few years ago, right when I potted it, Franny put this little unicorn in there for good luck. So it remains. And then there's igneous rock. What's the name of it? Obsidian? No. I can't remember. Anyways, it's that black shiny rock. And then there's a little rock I don't know the name of, another just kind of stacked up there. They look pretty when the pot's all cleaned up and this thing's in full bloom. So hopefully we'll get to prune this up and it'll be nice and healthy and make leaps and bounds this coming year. All right. So that's going to do it for today's episode of the African Baobab on Jarhead Bonsai. I really hope you enjoyed yourself. If you haven't seen the African Baobab in full growth form, go ahead, check it out online. It's a nice tree to see when it's in its fully grown form. They're pretty epic. Disney even used them and calls it the upside down tree. So they're really famous. Anyways, I'm not famous, but if you did enjoy this video and you enjoy bonsai, there's plenty more to come from the ranch, always doing something. I've got a 500 spruce tree farm outside that I started this year. Got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different plants and trees inside, and a lot just overwintering down in the basement right now. So check out some of my playlists. Hit that subscribe notification bell for more to come, and I really appreciate y'all watching. That's going to do it for today's episode of Jarhead Bonsai. Take care, y'all. Cheers.